Are you sure about this, Sir Sad? Brian asked, not for the first time, eyeing the forest around him suspiciously. The light from his torch took away from some of the eeriness of the unfamiliar woods, but not much. A glance from Matsuya showed she shared his concern. Whoever this is has been going after those involved in the child hunts, just like us, said repeated the point he made every time Brian had questioned. Master needs all the help he can get. It's at least worth a shot. That may be true, but the methods are a bit extreme, Matsuya countered. More so than many men would likely be comfortable with. Then perhaps we can offer them a better way of dealing with the Empire, said respondent, undeterred. Whoever this mystery resistor was, he was determined to meet them. He needed to, not just to satisfy his curiosity. Sir, Brian hissed sharply. Sad stopped and looked in the direction Brian was glaring. It was hard to see, but someone was moving slowly towards him. Now that none of them were talking, he could hear soft whispers and the rustling of movement. Sad slowly stepped forward, being careful to remain in the light of the torch. He heard Matsuya draw her sword and shook his head at her. She looked confused, but obeyed, slowly lowering her weapon. Hasbel shifted nervously next to him, standing on the tip of his toe as he tried to look over Sed's shoulder into the darkness. A shape gradually made its way into the outskirts of the torchlight. As Sed suspected, it wasn't a person, but a group of people. Children, to be exact. 5 of them were huddled together, wide-eyed and trembling. He had been in northern Thracia long enough to tell that they were definitely victims of the child hunts, but leading them wasn't one of the Lottery and cultists or the Empire soldiers. The leader was hardly much bigger than the children, but was definitely not one of them. His clothes were oversized and shredded, still wet with blood. His head was lowered, long brown hair obscuring his face, yet Sed swore he could feel the glare aimed at him from underneath. One hand was clenched tightly around the sword, and the other hovered near the tomes attached to his waist. We're not here to stop you. We want to return the children to their homes just as much as you do, Sed called out, slowly taking a step forward. The leader showed no visible reaction, which Sed chose to view as a positive. He wasn't attacking or fleeing, so maybe it could be reasoned with. A sharp inhale from behind him and momentarily distracted Sed as he turned to see Asbel, pale as she. Lord, he began to say in breathy disbelief, but before he could finish, the leader finally spoke. Conwell, don't. The voice that came from the bloody figure caught Sed off guard. It was quiet yet commanding, and definitely not the voice of an adult. The thought had crossed his mind to seeing his small stature, but the conversation was still unsettling. According to that Asbel's reaction, and there was no chance Sed was letting whoever this was get away. Lord or not, you're responsible for these children's rescue, and for that, you have my gratitude. Please, allow us to accompany you back to the village. It will be safer for the children if they travel with all of us, said Alfred. Take them yourselves. With that curt remark, the boy turned around and began walking away, back into the dark of the forest. The now abandoned children all looked nervously at the Magi squad. Sed sighed, frustrated but not surprised. Matsuya, Brighton, Lara, take the children back to the village and make sure they find their way home. Asbel, come with me, Sed ordered as he headed after the boy, not wanting to lose him in the dark. Any complaints from the others were ignored as he and Asbel headed deeper into the forest. The boy didn't have much of a head start on them, nor was he running, but he most likely knew the area better than they did, making it easy for him to avoid them if he wanted. Sed hurried as fast as he dared, keeping an eye out for any sign of the boy. Hasbel was struggling not to rush ahead, something about the other boy having agitated him greatly. They finally caught with him in a less dense section of the forest. He stopped with his back still to them, body tense as if weighing reluctantly. Sed had to put it on his own to prevent Asbel from running forward. The poor boy looked around, ready to burst, yet remained unusually quiet as he fidgeted anxiously. I was hoping we could talk, Sed began. I'm the leader of a resistance group in Manchester called the Magi Squad. We've been opposing and trying to end the child hunts in the city. One of what you've been doing has gotten around, so we sought you out, hoping you would join with... No. The boy interrupted Sed's speech, then gave no indication of elaborating. Fortunately, Sed wasn't one to give up easily. No, we can't talk. Or no, you won't join us? Take your pick. And he was just as obstinate. Why had he even stopped to let them catch up if he was only going to refuse to talk to them? Asbel made a soft sound, ability to stay silent almost at its limit. The reminder of his apprentice's agitation gave him a new idea. Perhaps he'd have more luck with a different approach. If you won't talk to me, or at least talk to him, Seth turned to Asbel, who looked at his teacher with surprised hope. The other boy turned his head slightly, enough to confirm who Seth meant, before turning away again. Just him, he agreed, posture slightly less tense. Whether because he was resigned to disagreement or because of whatever connection he had to Asbel, Seth didn't care. And progress was progress. Just him, Seth confirmed. I'll go make sure the others made to the village, alright, and find some supplies to take care of your injuries. And Seth released Asbel and began heading back the way they had come. Part of him was tempted to head back and eavesdrop, but that part was balanced out by the part they wanted to prove he was trustworthy, and the part that was slightly afraid of the other boy. As Seth's footsteps gradually faded away, Asbel continued staring, still struggling to believe what was going on. The spark of hope he'd felt when he first saw the boy had grown the longer he was around him, consuming any other thoughts until his belief felt like a fact. He'd wanted nothing but this for so long, he could barely keep his voice from shaking as he finally finishing his question from before. Lord Leif? To Asbel. The silence seemed to go on for ages before the boy finally turned around. Yeah, he confirmed slightly, where his face no longer hid in shadow or obscured by his hair. Asbel couldn't help letting out a gasp as he approached his new friend, his old friend. There was a scar under, and alarmingly close to his right eye. Another along the side of his neck, and those were only the ones he noticed in the dim moonlight. His lip was cut, and blood from a slash across his forehead spilled down half of his face. The other half was colored by newly darkening bruises over his cheekbone and jaw. Lord Leif, Asbel whispered this time, a wave of too many emotions crashing over him at once. Leif attempted what Asbel suspected was supposed to be a smile. I'm glad you're alright, Leif said. I don't know who else made it out of Tara. A pen began to sand as realization dawned on Asbel. You never found Finn and Nana? Leif shook his head. Are you saying you've been on your own all this time, Lord Leif? It's been 5 years since the Empire invaded Tara. Any softness in Leif's face vanished, replaced by an emptiness that frightened Asbel. It's better this way, he said, complete belief in his statement. Of all things Leif could have said, Asbel had not expected that. His head hurt trying to make sense of it. Better this way? Asbel repeated. Better this? How is this any better than anything else? I'm only putting myself in danger, Leif said as if he thought this was a reasonable explanation. Asbel didn't know whether he was more horrified or angry. That's the problem. You've been putting yourself in danger this whole time and no one was there for you. You didn't have anyone to watch out for you or protect you. Leif bristled at this, but Asbel was just getting started. There were stories about what you're doing and it's all real dangerous stuff. What about our promise? We said we were going to take back Frasier together. How are we supposed to do that if you die out there? Here. Forget that promise, Leif said. The harsh undertone Asbel knew this wasn't a suggestion. You shouldn't be dragged down with me. I don't want to forget, Asbel snapped back. I spent the last 5 years looking for you so we could keep that promise. I joined Sir Sad so I can learn magic strong enough to fight beside you. And you're telling me that was all for nothing? Despite his cold expression, Leif's eyes were fiery as he answered. Yes. Anger won now over fear, and Asbel pressed on. Well, you don't get to decide that. It's my magic, and I'll use it however I want. So good luck getting rid of me, because I'm not going to leave your side ever again. Not that I'm in any doubt, Leif could easily get away from Asbel right now if he wanted to, but he didn't. Not once did he turn around and he seemed as if he was going to leave again. Asbel was desperate for a sign that the Leif he remembered was still in there, behind the blood and bruises. He decided to take this as one, or at least the beginnings of one, and cling to it with all his might. We said We said there was going to be nothing we couldn't do together, and I still believe that. Even more now, I'll lead the magic squad and fight with you anywhere against anything. The Lotrians, camp of soldiers, even Radric. Asbel's impassioned speech was carved as Leif straightened, and for the first time that night, there was an easily identifiable emotion on his face. That bastard who double-crossed Siobhan for the Empire? Yes, Asbel answered. His earlier boldness was quickly waning as his anger died and the fear it had been suppressing started to dig its claws in. He's been running the challenge and master, and I know what he's doing. At least some of it. Enough to want to kill that man with my own hands. Leif growled. Asbel almost believed he could. Then come with us. Both Leif and Asbel was surprised at Asbel's suggestion. Asbel wasn't sure he should be encouraging Leif's violent anger, but there was a slight chance he could use it to his advantage. We came looking for you because we're getting ready to make a move on Radric and need all the help we can get, Asbel explained. You don't have to join the Magi forever. Just help us free the children and take down Radric. Before Leif could respond, the snap of a twig caught his attention. Without thinking, he dashed behind Asbel and raised his sword, using himself as a shield between Asbel and whatever was approaching him. What was approaching them was sad. Having returned with a staff and some cloth wrappings, he stopped when he saw Leif's hostile stance, but Asbel had barely noticed him in his excitement when Leif had placed himself between Asbel and the potential attacker. Asbel noticed a still bleeding gash on Leif's shoulders. It had to make moving his arm painful, yet he lifted his sword to defend Asbel without hesitation, never wincing or letting his grip falter. Leif had been prepared to fight to protect Asbel, while sparing off for his own well-being. It was reckless and impulsive, and the most Leif thing he could possibly think of. That was more than a sign. This was proof. Leif was still the same person he promised to fight beside and wanted to see become Northern Thracia as king. That spark felt a lot stronger now.